And so now we're going to hear from our keynote speaker. Please join me in a warm welcome for Tim Brown. Okay, thank
you. Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. All right. Well, I have 4 kids, so when I get home tonight, I'm going to tell them that I was introduced today as a dynamic keynote speaker and see. I don't know that they'll care too much, but thank you so much for the warm introduction and for having me today. As was mentioned, work with the National Association of Counties, so our whole goal is to build programs for county active employees and county retirees like yourselves, so thank you for your service to LA County, and I'm really excited today to go through our new supplemental benefits program that hopefully you've had a chance to look at, and if not, I'll walk through the ways that you can do that. So to make things a little bit easier, everyone should look in their goodie bag and see a packet that looks like this. Maybe we'll just pull that out if that's okay, and kind of talk a little bit about what are supplemental benefits, pay out large amounts in the event you need to use those coverages. So if you open up your guide here, there's a nice welcome note, but if you scroll to go over to page 5, there's probably one of the most exciting new benefits that we have available, and that is our RELAC Benefits Center. So we understand that the previous program, you got one time a year to sign up, and we listened to a lot of folks that said, you know, I'd like to be able to maybe buy a policy in March or in April or in June whenever I need to think about this coverage. And we opened the program up now through this new program where you can actually go at any time throughout the year and pick up one of these coverages. So you're not locked into just one time a year. You can actually go right now after you get out and call and learn about the program and select a policy if it's something that would benefit you or your family. The reason page 5 is such a great thing to look at is it's got a number on here. And this is our RELAC Benefits Center, and they are experts in this entire supplemental benefits program, so you do not need to go it alone when it comes to what's in this booklet. I recommend highly, if you just have general questions or would like to learn more about it and get some one-on-one time, to call the Benefits Center with a number on here, and someone, you know, we've had calls go 2 hours or 15 minutes, so they are willing to take as much time as you need to better understand what this is, how it works with maybe some of the benefits that you already get, and which of the programs might be right for you, if any. So there's no pressure whatsoever. You could have that call and end up saying, you know what, no thanks to any of them, or you could see a couple of them that might work for you. But I encourage everyone to take some time and call in and speak to one of the benefit counselors that are experts in the program, because they're really there to help you and answer a lot of those detailed questions that you might want to know. So please take advantage of that. You know, 2 of the major benefits that Lacera offers that a lot of folks get and take advantage of are the dental and the vision plans. So many of you may be enrolled on those dental and vision plans today. And think of those as your first line of defense with the dentist, right? So you're going to show that Lacera insurance, and it's going to cover quite a bit. It's a great benefit. But as we mentioned, if you have implants or serious things that you need, it might not cover the whole boat. And so that's why we partnered with MetLife, and you're going to see MetLife throughout here a lot. We kept it pretty easy for you. We partnered with MetLife because they came forward with lower rates than the previous supplemental plan had and better benefits. So when you can get more for less, we usually say that's a good deal. And MetLife is one of the largest dental vision and providers in the entire country. So we feel strong about the carrier that we chose. The dental plan, if you are interested in it, has a monthly cost. Again, this can be deducted from your Lacera check. So that's typically how you'd pay those premiums. But if you were interested in it, you'd pay those monthly premiums and you'd be able to add this additional coverage on top of or supplement your Lacera coverage with this additional coverage. So you'll notice on your Lacera coverage, it's usually going to hit a cap. So it may have $1,000 or a $2,000 cap. Well, when you have serious procedures, those typically hit that cap and leave you with the additional amount. This plan will work in partnership with that Lacera plan to then kick in after you've run into that cap. And so it'll supplement whatever Lacera is not covering on that dental plan. So if you have serious dental procedures or even semi-serious dental procedures coming up, or you've been in that situation where you've hit your, Lucera dental plan cap, this is a great program to consider because it will pay out these benefits up to a maximum of $1,500 per year. So think of it like getting an additional $1,500 to help supplement the out-of-pocket expense that you had for that dental procedure. Your dentist is very much more than likely already participating in the MetLife network, so they're familiar with MetLife, but these amounts will pay out regardless. Okay, so you'll get these payments, and you'll notice the payments go up, the maximums go up as the procedure gets more intense, if you want to call it that. So as you go all the way up to implants, you can get up to $2,400 payout on that. So it can be a nice benefit for you to take advantage of if you want to look at adding a little bit of extra dental coverage. So another one that you probably might take advantage of is the Lucera Vision Plan. And just like the dental plan, that Lucera Vision Plan, it can kind of hit a wall or it hits a cap. So once you've used it, you can exhaust it, and you could be maybe in the middle of the year. So your Lucera benefit's not going to reset for another 6 months, let's say that. This plan similarly will be something that you can use to supplement and maybe get a little bit of additional payout on those frames. This is a great example. So if you go out and get a new set of frames, your Lucera benefit may not pay for the full amount. You could use this to cover the difference, right? It also has an additional eye exam if that's something you want to get and maybe you didn't have covered, or can help you get your contact lenses as well. If you hit your maximum on that vision plan, this is really meant to be there to make sure that you don't have to come out of pocket, right? So there's obviously a much smaller premium for this. So if you're just covering yourself as a member, it's, a little under $6 a month, but you would get that full coverage that can supplement your vision plan you have in place. So that whole idea of the supplement is really to fill any gaps that you're still paying out of pocket. So if we go to page 8, life insurance. So life insurance is a tricky thing. You probably have many people out there trying to get you to buy life insurance, look at more life insurance. How much life insurance is the right amount of life insurance? And so what we thought we'd do is through MetLife put an option that is on the table that you could consider. And so there's an ability to get up to an additional $150,000 of life insurance at a discounted rate because we did it through RELAC as a large association. And so if you're in the market for life insurance or think you maybe need to increase your life insurance amount, encourage you to take a look at the life insurance option, because what RELAC was able to do in all of these benefits was get much lower prices than you would traditionally get out on your own. Because MetLife looked at RELAC as one large association group, and they gave those economies of scale. So to simplify it, when you buy ketchup at Costco and it's cheap, it's because Costco buys a lot of ketchup, right? And so they can give it to you at a lower price. Very similarly, that's how MetLife looked at the RELAC opportunity, is to say, this is a great way for us to reach a lot of retirees and get them a lower kind of bulk buy, if you think about it. Hopefully no one has to think about life or accidental death, but unfortunately it's just part of how things are. So the other component is this accidental death and dismemberment. That's a separate benefit if, God forbid, anybody were killed in an accident or dismembered, in some type of accidental death. It pays an additional amount out. So you may have been familiar with that on some other life insurance that you've had, but relatively inexpensive compared to life insurance. So you can add that if it's something you're interested in. As you see throughout, there's this little QR code. I don't know about you guys, but these things are everywhere now. It seems like everywhere you look, there's these QR codes. So we've got them in here too, but that's also got an ability for you to just scan that. It'll get you to the benefits center. And then also we'll go over at the end where you could even watch some videos that can walk you through each if you want to do that before you call in to talk to somebody. On page 10 here, we go through what's called accident coverage. So this is new. So this is not something that was previously available in the old supplemental program. And unfortunately, life just happens. So, I've got young kids, multiple broken bones, scrapes, bruises, but really that can happen to anybody, right? Anybody could fall, have a scrape, a bruise, go into the emergency room. And we know that you have great medical coverage through Lucera, but there's still going to be sometimes some out of pockets. You may pay a copay, or you may have to have someone come in and help take care of you while you're getting back on your feet for a little bit. When these accidents come through, there's a flat check that you would get sent in the mail depending on the type of accident. So if we look at this, let's say you had an open fracture, you could get up to an $8,000 check in the mail from MetLife. And they don't care what you do with that money. So that's what's nice about this. So sometimes when you use your medical insurance, they say, we'll pay your doctor. We want to make sure that that money gets back to your hospital or to your doctor. MetLife just wants to get that money to you. So they know you have all kinds of expenses that could come up, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just paying off a doctor or a hospital. It could be, I had to, have someone come in and take care of me. I had to, I was, lost some income from that. If I have currently a second job right now, whatever it is, you will enjoy having that check just show up because you can use it for whatever you want. So as you look through this list, it can do just very basic things. If you go to the urgent care, if you've ever been to urgent care, they will send you a $75 check just for that visit. They don't ask a bunch of questions around, they want to know that you were there, but they'll send you that $75 check. Ambulance. I don't know if anyone's had the unfortunate experience of riding in an ambulance, though it's the most expensive Uber on earth, right? So when you get those bills, sometimes they send you extra bills on top. Those things, sometimes you have to mess and fight with your insurance on. An ambulance, a ground ambulance would pay a $300 benefit. If unfortunately you ever had to be in one of those choppers, you'd get $1,000. Again, this is if you had an accident and had to go in, had additional expenses as a result. And there's also additional amounts for paralysis or if, you had an issue with one of your limbs. But the nice thing is there's two options. The low plan pays out a little bit less. The high plan pays out a little bit more. And the premiums, for a member on the low plan, you'd pay about $13 a month. But, for example, if you had a surgery as a result of an accident and you're on that low plan, you'd pay $13 a month and you'd get a $1,500 check. So it will typically pay out much more than your premiums if, unfortunately, you have an accident. So that's how the accident plan works for MetLife. The second plan is called a hospital indemnity plan, and this one's easier to keep up with because it's just if you go into a hospital. So if you look back and you've been in the hospital in the last 2 years or you think you might be going into an inpatient hospital, that is a nice benefit because it just pays you a flat amount, and then it pays you an additional amount for each day you stay in the hospital. So if you look on page 12, the high plan, it'll pay you a flat $1,000 if you're admitted to a hospital for any reason. Doesn't matter if it's an accident, surgery, whatever it is. You go into the hospital, you get admitted, you get a $1,000 check from MetLife. And then for each day you stay in there, you can get an additional $200 a day up to 15 days. And so that's another check. So when you go on the RELAC website, which we'll talk about in a little bit, there's a supplemental benefits area. We have some claim examples where you could see how this actually plays out if it were you. Hopefully everyone stays out of the hospital, but those hospitals, it's just part of life. So unfortunately, most of us will end up in a hospital at some point in our life, including me. So, but again, you'll see the premiums are down at the bottom. That amount would come out of your Lucera deduction. And in return, if you had any kind of claim issue or need from a hospital, you'd get that check from MetLife in the mail. The other new benefit is called a critical illness benefit. So unfortunately, there are just life events that take place that can really set us backwards. So that can be a heart attack. It can be a stroke. It can be cancer. And when those types of big diagnoses come in, life gets harder. Expenses get tighter quite often, and it can be very helpful to have some additional support. And so we have added the critical illness benefit, understanding that that's just a reality of life, as unfortunately that some of us will have to fight those battles. But when they fight them, we want to provide some additional financial support. And so if you get a new diagnosis, so again, the question we get a lot on this one is, what if I currently am fighting cancer or I've currently had one of these? They do not look backwards, so they can't have a pre-existing condition as that term. But if you have a new diagnosis that comes in, you can choose, and it will pay out either a $15,000 benefit or a $30,000 benefit. So to give you an example, if you were to get a new cancer diagnosis and you had bought the $30,000 benefit plan, the moment you get the diagnosis, you'd get the $30,000 check in the mail. And that's, again, a check that would come to you because there's so many expenses in life that would come in as a result of that cancer. It wouldn't be just going to the doctor. It wouldn't be just your chemo regimen. It would be family, support, caregiving, whatever it is. They just want to get the money to you so that you can use it for what you need. Those rates are based on your age. So what we would do is you call the benefits center, and they can help provide you the pricing, right? They can tell you, okay, what's your date of birth? How much do you want? Do you want the $30,000 or the $15,000 benefit? And here's the premiums. If you say I'd like to get it, then they set it up, and then those premiums start coming out of your Lucera deduction after you've approved them. So another great new benefit that can really help provide some financial security in the unfortunate event you get one of those unfortunate diagnoses. The other thing that it makes me sad we have to offer this benefit, but it's becoming an increasingly large issue is ID and fraud protection. So we're seeing an increasingly large number of cyber attacks. You probably see in the news a new big organization every day is getting hacked, and Social Security numbers are getting out in the market. And so it's never been more important to make sure that your ID is safe and secure, and that you have a protection in the event that your ID were ever stolen. I've had some family members have their ID stolen. It is a complete nightmare. I've had to help them work through that, make sure their credit gets back online, and it takes, it can take a long time if you don't have the support. And so MetLife has a program in which if that were to ever happen to you, they work directly with the credit bureaus to make sure your credit isn't impacted. They work directly with investigators to make sure that your ID gets restored. And then they can also do things throughout the year to help make sure your ID is being protected. So they can give you checklists that you can make sure you're following, or gotchas to watch out for whenever it comes to protecting your ID. So I don't know about you guys. I still get nervous every time someone says allow cookies and I click that button on there. I'm like, what did I just do? So they can give you some helpful tips to help protect your ID. And then along that too is, if you need to go into a legal type event as a result of an ID fraud, they can help provide some general advice on what to do next there. So, the other question I get a lot is, what about my fur baby? I don't have kids anymore, but I do have pets. Probably one of the most asked about benefits in the market right now is pet insurance, because if you've ever been to a veterinarian and you've had pet issues, you don't leave a happy camper when you get the bill, right? They're really expensive. And so MetLife is the second largest pet insurance provider in the world. And so what they've done, they call it MetPet, so it's easy to remember, is the thing about pet insurance is it's priced by the animal. That's typically how it works. So if you have a Schnauzer versus a poodle, age, where they live, it all varies. But what you get is you get a pretty big discount if you do it through the RELAC arrangement than if you just went out and bought pet insurance on your own. And so through the website, as well as the QR code, or you can call into the benefits center and they can help you get set up. You can go type in your pet's information and it will provide the discounted rate that you would get. So, many of you may still have pets and have had to experience that vet experience. So if you do have that, encourage you to take a chance and look at the pet insurance, because it could save you at the vet, which I hope it does. And then finally, the legal plan with MetLife. So dealing with the legal system is not fun. Hopefully many of you have not had to encounter that. But if you are running into issues like, a really good one is my aunt passed away without a will. And it was a disaster, honestly. The estate planning process, trying to go through probate, understanding how we could get her money set to where she wanted it to go. It took 2.5 years for us to probate her situation. And I had, to hire an attorney. I really did. At the end of the day, we tried to do it ourselves, and I had to hire an attorney to get it done. And so things as simple as that, I wish I had known. You'd be shocked at how few people have a will, right? So something as simple as getting a will, or making sure it's updated, or making sure you have support. The MetLife legal plan has attorneys on staff that can help walk you through that process. Additionally, things like, tax issues, or even something as simple as a parking ticket or a speeding ticket, understanding your options there. This MetLife legal plan can be really, really helpful when it comes to that. But I would say the number one thing people use this for is high-level estate planning and making sure you're not stepping in a bear trap when it comes to planning your estate. So they're not going to plan your estate for you, but they're going to really help make sure you're taking the right steps to make sure your estate's in a good place. So many of you may have your own independent advisors that do that. That's fantastic. I encourage everyone to do it. If you don't, this can be a great resource for you that's relatively inexpensive and can really help you when you run into that. Additionally, if you run into other legal issues, it can just always be kind of the angel on your shoulder that you could call and say, what should I do? Who should I call? What's my next step? If you need advice to get referred out to a local attorney, they actually have a whole network of pre-vetted attorneys that they've worked with in the past that are actually experts in what your issue is. So encourage you to take a look at that. One of the ways I get asked a lot is, what's the way I could definitely use this program, even if I'm not sure if I want any of the policies? If you do nothing else, check out the discount programs, because I promise you're using one of those services. So there are now discounts on everything from Samsung TVs to Disneyland tickets to Carnival cruises. And those are all through the RELAC program. So you can actually go on there. It's almost like a shopping mall online. And you go in there, and if you were going to buy that product anyway, I promise you it's typically averaging a 20 to a 35% discount that you could get just by doing it through that. So some of these big ticket purchases, you can.
Tim, for these entertainment offerings that you're talking about, does a retiree have to sign up for like one of the medical benefits, or can they just sign up for these?
Great question. You don't have to be enrolled in one of the products to be able to go take advantage of the discounts. So you can be, as long as you're a RELAC member, you get access to all of those great discounts. So I encourage everyone to go take advantage of it, because the site's up and running now. You just have to be a RELAC member, which you guys all are, and we thank you for that. But if you do, you can go take advantage of any of those great retail discounts now. So, great question. Yep.
You can enroll in each individual one.
Great question. Yes. So this isn't a one size fits all. You'll notice there's prices for each of the programs that we've talked about so far. You can sign up for 1, 5, 0. It's up to you. But each individual one does get selected. And then you get a statement that just shows all the ones you signed up for and the total. When you look at your Lacera deduction, you'll see one number, because Lacera just wants to do one pull. But if you ever need to know, okay, $32.11 got taken out, I want to know exactly what that is. The Benefit Center has a confirmation statement they can send you with each one, or you could call them and they could walk you through exactly what that $32.11 represents.
So for doctors, dentists, hospitals, just in general out there in the world, are there like in-network, out-network people who can say, well, we just don't acknowledge that? Or how does that kind of work? Do you walk around with cards in your pocket all the time, and every time you go see your dentist, you show them the card? Or how does it work?
Great question. So the greatest thing about the dental and the vision is you don't have to have a card in order to do it. You provide the dentist your social security number, which often they're asking you to do anyway when you sign up, and they look you up and they get you signed up. You get the money, they get sent the money directly, or you can tell MetLife, I need to get the check. They do. Yeah, they do. And the ones that don't have an out-of-network relationship with them too. So dental is easier because unlike medical, when you go there and they say, I'm out of network, I don't take your insurance, this is on you. A lot of dentists don't take insurance at all. And so they're used to working through this situation more so than medical doctors are. On the medical side, those benefits we talked about, like hospital and things like that, that's great because MetLife just sends you the check. They don't send it to your doctor. So you call MetLife, they ask you about the claim, or they send you a claim form. They might send you a claim form to fill out, but then you would just get the $15,000 critical illness check. And so they don't mess with you having to fight with your doctor for the money or who's getting the money, because your Lacera medical plan is what's paying probably the doctor. This is helping fill any gaps that the doctor says, your deductible was $1,000 so MetLife, you just file the claim with MetLife, and they would send you the money directly to you in a check or ACH.
When you sign up, is your benefits effective immediately, or do you have to wait 30 or 90 days, or after the first premium?
So it's a great question. So there's two. You guys have some great questions. So there's two things that have to happen for you to get your benefits ready. One is you sign up with the benefits center, so we know you want it. But in order to pay those premiums, you're part of the pie to MetLife, we got to get Lacera to do the deduction pull from your pension. And so Lacera has to approve the form that we send you. So if you called today and said, I want to sign up, we'd say, great, and we can get you set up on the 1st of the next month if we get your form in and Lacera approves it. So what we do is we send it to you. It's a DocuSign, so you can just do it right there on your computer. But you send it in, we get it right to Lacera, they approve it. That's how we know they're going to start pulling the money out. Once we confirm that, we send you to MetLife and they sign you up. So the only reason I don't say it happens immediately is if Lacera pushes, like if there's something wrong with the form, it may get delayed. But if we do everything perfectly, the moment Lacera tells us that they're good to go on pulling that money from you, we get your information to MetLife and get you signed up. And usually it's first of the month, the first of the next month. Does that answer the question? Yeah. So the reason I bring that up though is if, Lacera has to approve it. So if sometimes you feel like there's a delay, we'll always tell you, but we can get you in immediately to MetLife, but Lacera has to approve the deduction. Otherwise, we don't have a way for you to get your premiums to MetLife, if that makes sense. So we'll make it as easy as possible, but then we'll also always be available. So if you want to know where anything is, you could call that benefit center at any time. I think it's 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. And they will be there to tell you what the status is. So if you're like, did Lacera approve my form yet? We can tell you yes, no, or they have a copy of it. They're working on it. So.
Yes, you say you can't pay the premium without going through Lacera?
Right. The way the program is set up to make it as easy as possible for you all is we have to do it through the pension deduction. So we have to get Lacera to approve the premium amount. And then once that's done, you don't have to do anything. Each month it just comes out of your Lacera check.
So, but you couldn't pay it a year in advance or whatever?
Yeah, we don't typically do the full year in advance. We just do monthly on that. Just that way, if for some reason you didn't want it 6 months later, you wouldn't have already prepaid the whole year. So
The reason I'm asking the question is that a lot of times if you have pet insurance and your pet dies, then you have to go through a lot of paperwork, to keep the deduction out where you can
That's
pay
a good
it.
question.
good news on pet insurance, and I'm glad you brought that up. The only benefit on here that is direct pay is pet insurance for that reason. So that way you don't have to go through the hoops. So if that were to happen, just contact MetLife and we could help you with that, and then they would stop the policy on that at that time, because we have seen that. So we put pet insurance on. You'll go and put your information in, and then you would pay directly for it at the discounted rate, so that if unfortunately your pet passed, you don't have to continue to pay premiums for 4 more months while you're fighting with the deduction process. So pet insurance is a direct pay.
When you say that you contact MetLife, you really contact the call
That's
center,
right.
correct?
That's right. Yeah. So you can do it either way. So if you prefer, you'll look in the back here. There are numbers for MetLife, which are there for certain benefits. But when it comes to the call center, is your first line of defense always. So you'll see the 877 number. Even if they need to get you to MetLife because maybe it's a personal claim issue, they can get you over there. So they can help make sure that your claim is getting processed. So if you ever feel like you're getting directed over to MetLife, it's just because they also have some claim specialists that can really get in the weeds and make sure you get your money. But the first place to call, great line of defense, first line of defense is always the RELAC Benefits Center. And again, that's open pretty much all day, Monday through Friday. And it can be there for any questions you have, or when it comes to either your Lacera deduction or that. The only thing with Lacera deduction is we're not Lacera, so sometimes we might have to say, we'll go research it and figure out and come back to you on that. So, yeah.
Okay, you said that when you go into the office, you give them your social security number and they call and verify. What if you don't want to throw out your social security number in every office you go into? I tried to get the card
Yeah.
online because it said you could download it. I'm not that tech savvy.
Okay, yeah.
So,
We do have card, like you can get sent a card. It'll be, from MetLife. It's digital, or you can pull it up. I would say, fortunately, most provider groups are savvy enough to also manage it, because they're filing thousands of MetLife claims every day. So they deal with MetLife all the time. So you could also ask your provider, what other identify? Can I give them my date of birth and name? And then when they call MetLife, they could also use that. We see most dentists asking for social nowadays whenever you, as a provider, but that would be between you and your dentist, and if you didn't have it, they should be able to still find a way to verify your coverage with MetLife because they deal with MetLife.
I
So
always found that it was optional when you go into the dentist's office, but you always have a card to present to them, and this has your group number on it, but it doesn't have an ID number on it. How do you find out what your ID number is?
So your ID number is your social in this case. And yeah, now it's not going anywhere. And the main reason for that is just because we find more often folks, if they don't have their ID and they can't go find that other number, everyone typically knows their social. And so that way they always have something that they can give if they're in a pinch. Now, if you're in a situation where you just don't want to provide it, then your dentist should be able to give MetLife the group number, your name, your date of birth, and then they can look it up that way. But the reason it's the social is that's the number everyone kind of keeps here, so that if they don't have their card on them or they can't remember their member ID number, it's tough. So
I think the precaution is that most dentists have their records still on paper. It's like when you leave the office, you see all your files there.
back there, yeah.
And anyone can walk into that office when you're not there, and just because they know that you go to that dentist, can pull that record because they are aware that your not only your driver's license, but your social security and where you live
Yeah.
is on that record.
Yeah.
So using precaution is the best situation for, I guess, senior citizens.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, that's an important number for me too, right? My social security number, I don't want anyone to know that. But I'm just, with the provider side, if you're not comfortable with that, then there are workarounds. But the reason we did it, most providers, we still do see asking for it. And then we can find a way to look you up without it, though, if it's important. Yeah, so you could give them the group number, which is available, and we have they already have the provider number that they're calling all the time to verify members, and then they should be able to use your name, your date of birth. I mean, there has to be some identifiers that you are comfortable giving because they have to be able to whittle it down, but name and date of birth and address, they can start to use those because that's what's going to be in the MetLife system as well. So the same one that you provided to when you enrolled, that is going to show up in the MetLife system. So as long as you start giving some of those other identifiers, they should be able to find you. They just start with social just because that's the one that gets it there the quickest. But I totally understand because I would not, I don't necessarily want my social, in the wind. Right. Yeah. Or I will need the ID theft, protection. So which I don't want.
I can't go online to try and get the card and whatever, if I had it on my phone, but I noticed that the only card that was available online was vision. There wasn't one for the dental, there wasn't one for the legal services or whatever. How do you?
Dental, there is a card, so we can look into that, your particular issue. There's definitely a dental ID card available, and we actually have a generic dental ID card we can send out as well that has the basics of the group information, so we can email that to you as well if you need it. If you called the benefit center and said, I need a generic dental ID card, they could send it to you. On the legal, that one is the same way. There's not a card for legal services. There aren't really any that do cards, but you'd call in, provide your basic information, and they'd look you up, and we can get you the group number for that as well.
Just one other question.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry.
No.
Regarding the legal, from what you said, it sounded more like they were counselors or advisors, but do they actually do or represent you, like if you go to probate court or if you want to do estate plan?
Typically, no. So that's important. Like, they're not going to show up at court with you, but what they can do is provide a network of vetted probate attorneys that have prearranged rates that might be more affordable than what you could get, that you could consider. But they could also tell you, like, what do you need to do? Do you need to go do that through an attorney, or are there alternatives that you can do that might be more cost effective? So they're more like advisors, because, you know, it's such a murky world when you try to start the process. So they will not operate as your estate planner, though, or your, you know, probate attorney, but they are good advisors to help you kind of work through that maze. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I just have a couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
What company or third party do you use for identity and fraud protection?
Yeah, so MetLife owns a third party called Aura, AURORA.
MetLife?
Yeah, MetLife, but it's branded under Aura, AURORA is how they brand that. Yep. But it's through MetLife.
Okay. And my other concern, when it says senior term life, every time you get to an age, they go down, they cut it in half. This is 75, reduce to 50%, 25, 85% coverage. So when you get, you know, at a certain age, do they give you the money back that you put in?
Your premiums are also, no, your premiums, a great question, but your premiums go down by that same amount. So they want to let you know that the maximum you can get is $150,000, and when you start to hit certain ages, that comes down, but then the premiums would go down with that. So you're never going to pay for $150,000 when you're getting 70. You may just only be able to buy up to 70. If that makes
So
sense.
my point is, we say coverage terms at age 95. So when you get 95, by the grace of God, do you get your money? Do they close the policy and give you all your money back you put into it?
No, it works sort of like if you think about car insurance. If you drove and got no wrecks all year, you still paid the premiums, right? It sort of works like that. So if you get to 95, I mean, that's a win for sure. And then you're not getting your money back, but you wouldn't have to pay premiums past 95.
And you don't get $150,000. You get half of it.
If you die on your 94th birthday, right? Yeah, and then, but you wouldn't get it. Yeah, but you wouldn't be charged for it either. So, yeah, great question. Is that a question right there?
I didn't see it mentioned on here, but I thought I'd ask anyway. Hearing aid, is anything covered here, or does it cover, or they just don't offer? It's something you never see offered because they're rather expensive.
They're rather expensive, yeah. There's not a direct hearing aid benefit. I can go double check and take that back, you know, through that discount program that they offer, if there's any providers on there that are hearing aid specific. So I'll take that back and get it to the team, and then if there are, we can do it. Because that's a great, because those are expensive. So I don't think there's a direct benefit for it, but there could be something where you could get a discount through it. So we'll check. Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's why I said, you know, if you're a RELAC member, which you are, check those discount. You know, it's kind of like Sky Mall. You go on there and see all the different things you can get, but it's worth the time there. And then the only, you know, the final thing is inside of, there's an auto and home benefit now. So one thing I know about California in particular, it's getting harder and harder to find affordable auto and home insurance. And so the market, there's some, you know, farmers left the market. There's some big carriers that are leaving the state from a coverage perspective. And so if you are in that bucket and just want to compare your prices to what you have now, there's a discount through RELAC for auto and home coverage. Again, you don't just have to be on any of the policies to get access to that. You just go through the website, and it feels like shopping online, but you can get that discount automatically included. And so you can compare what you're paying now to, you know, and see if it makes sense. We hear from a lot of folks that it's getting more and more expensive to cover your cars and home for those insurance products. So I think I always like to just drive home. Yeah, don't try to go it alone. We built the benefits center for you so that you could call and ask questions and spend as much time as you needed talking to somebody. And then if you go on the RELAC website or go on the website here, you'll see on the last page it's got benefitdetails.com/RELAC. That's got videos for every product on it. If you just want to, like, give me a 3-minute video on how this works. And then to start the year, we did about an hour presentation on every one of these. So when you get home, you don't remember, you're like, that guy in the blue jacket showed up and I can't remember what he said. Go back to the website and you can rewatch, any parts of that. But it'll go through in detail, and we actually have some claim examples on there. So you can see, how would this actually pay out if I wanted to pay for it? So we're always here to help. Yep, question.
So this is kind of a question just kind of popped into my brain. This is all MetLife.
Correct.
We're talking about. So how do they make their money? We all pay our premiums. They've got enough money to pay all of us all this money. Are they financially solid? I mean, they're not going to one day say, hey, we're bankrupt.
No. It's a great question. So MetLife is publicly traded, so that's good news. You can always go look and see how they're doing. They're one of the largest companies in America, so they're a Fortune 100 company. They employ something like 15,000 employees, so they're no LA County, but they're a pretty good size employer. And the thing is, the way they afford it is, it's just like any car insurance. Not every driver gets in an accident every year, but every driver pays a little bit of premium. And so they manage it such that maybe this year you pay premiums and you don't have very many claims, but next year you have way more than you paid in premium. And so in the long run, the idea is you get the win, but year over year, that's how they manage it. They spread that risk out across all of their millions of members across the country. But if you ever want to look at how they are as a company, you can go into Fidelity or whoever you look at with stocks, and MetLife is a publicly traded company, so you can see how their stock's doing. But I do this every day. They're the best from a solvency perspective, one of the very best. So. Yep. So we have on that discount program, you can buy travel policies. It's not through here. But if you want to buy a travel policy, which many people do, you can get a discount on that. And that's where you're just saying, I'm going to Buenos Aires for a week. I just want to buy a policy for 1 week. There are policies out there that you could get so that if you were injured or hurt or needed to go to the hospital for that week, you could buy that policy. Yeah.
The question is about the legal plan.
Yes.
If you want to get your either will written or the trust updated, you call them and they will give the attorney who will handle that, and then I have to evaluate if that attorney is on the product level that I want.
Correct. And you can also, they can give you some basic help in a basic will if you don't have a will. But if you have a more complex trust or a will document, you're going to probably want to have somebody, right, that is your person that you can go to, and they can give you some advice on how to find the right one. And then if you ask them, hey, I don't even know where to start, who would you recommend? They have a network of folks that they could recommend. But as always, that would be your decision if you moved forward with that person. It's just, from our experience, it's so tough to know where to even get started sometimes. And there's so many estate attorneys out there that is there a vetted process?
So they have some kind of vetting process already gone through, list they can hand me over?
Yes, absolutely. Based on where you're located and what your needs are, they could provide you that vetted list. And then if you have issues with that person, this is what's good. If you choose to use that person needs MetLife, because what's feeding their business is all those referrals, right? So if they screw up a lot, they'll get taken off the vetted list. So you have a little bit bigger of a hammer to swing on them than just you as an individual client.
More incentives.
Yeah, absolutely.
These referrals, I know for a fact that all of these attorneys can charge anywhere from $300 to $500 an hour.
Right.
For a consultation.
Right.
Or whatever. Are we getting a discount with these referrals, or we're just getting free referrals from the $22 that we're paying a month for the attorney service.
Yeah.
So is that just for the referral list and these attorneys, we're still out of pocket for the absorbent fees?
Yeah. Think of it as quality and price. So in order to get on that vetted list, you have to typically be willing to provide a discount to MetLife because they're going to bring a lot more clientele into your practice, and you have to check the quality measures. So it's both. You will get a discount, but it won't be at the expense of the attorney typically. I mean, the quality of the attorney. So you should see a discount off of what that attorney would normally charge as an hourly rate if it comes in through that network. So think of it as your doctor. If you had no insurance and walked in versus you have insurance, they give those insurance companies a better rate typically. They're supposed to anyway. And that's how this works as well, just with the legal side. And then there's other benefits too. So estate planning we talked about a lot, but it can be like personal family disputes. Two of my neighbors across the street right now seem to be in some kind of legal battle. So I don't know, they could, if that happened, you could talk it over with someone. But sometimes you don't need to hire an attorney. Right, if you went to small claims court, for example, and it might be helpful just to talk to someone that's been there before. So,
I've been an attorney for 40-some years. I don't work anymore, but I actually do work. Like Linda said, I provide a lot of advice to RELAC. I have family members, I have friends, I have acquaintances. Hey, I got a speeding ticket. What do I need to do? Hey, my neighbor just, chopped down my tree. So I think what you get is somebody like me for free, and you don't have to say thank you. You don't have to offer to buy me coffee or a glass of wine or something.
Yes.
You're getting guidance.
Right.
And a referral given when the issue, and I would tell somebody, this is too complicated. We need to find you a lawyer to help you with this, that, or the next thing. Or, no, you don't need a lawyer. Just do this and that, and this will take care of it. So I think what you're getting really, the lawyers used to be called counselors at law, and this is really the counseling part of what a lawyer could provide, as including this needs a lawyer. Here's my list, and let's help you find one. I hope that helps, but I do this all the time in my own life, and so maybe I should volunteer to work.
There you go. Oh, well, just send your premiums to Bobby, and then we'll, But in general, I mean,
I don't want my phone number. I don't want you to have it.
You're so right, though, because, anytime I've dealt with an attorney, and maybe you have too, it feels like I'm getting charged to say hello. Every minute counts. So I'm like, let's no more greetings. Let's just get into it. But it's like, I think it helps just to start with someone that's like, do I need an attorney? Can I manage this on my own? If I was going to manage it on my own, what would I have to do? What's the process look like, start to finish? So that's the other thing. My wife is another great example. She threw away a piece of mail 4 times in a row, and now we had a collector call, And now I'm in collections with this rant for this piece of lab work we had done, but I didn't, and what do I do? When they say they're making these threats, is that real? You can call and they can say, no. Here's the actual state law that says they can't do this, this, and this, and you're not actually probably in collections. They're just scaring you. Those kind of things can be a helpful conversation if you need it. So,
You might have already covered this, but I went to see the dentist, and I was telling the dentist that I was going to get some supplemental insurance. And then they just totally confused me, saying that the supplemental is not going to be, that in other words, what the benefits that you're having under the plan that you already have, the supplemental benefits are not going to provide additional coverage. And I think they say that a lot because my husband and a neighbor who worked for the county, well, my husband didn't, but they said the same thing. So have you received any kind of questions like that, and how do we address it?
Yeah. I think it's dependent on what are they doing for you, right? So one of the big things is if you just get cleanings every year, I'll be the first person to tell you, you don't need supplemental dental insurance, right? Because those cleanings are going to be covered. So if your dentist just sees you for, your twice a year check-in, you don't have major work done, that could be why they're like, you don't need more because I've never had to charge you more than what the Lacera plan is. And that it's when you get into these, the way dentists really make their money is not on the cleanings. It's the implants, the bridges, the extractions. That's when all of a sudden you're going to not realize how a dentist could cost so much, right? And those are the situations where a dentist would have to look you straight in the eye and go, yes, you're going to go past that maximum that the Lacera plan pays, because that is a big procedure that you're having done. And so those are the things to think about. But our call center's job is not to sell you a dental plan. It's to ask you, do you just get cleanings once a year? Then you're probably okay with the Lacera program. But if you have had big procedures, or if you're going to have big procedures, the nice thing about dental is a lot of times they don't happen right then. You don't go in and they say, you know what? You need to get your implants and or your bridge right now, right? That you say, let's schedule that out. Well, if you're going to have that done, then maybe call and buy the policy so that you can take advantage of it. But even if you go and look at your Lacera materials, they'll acknowledge that they hit a wall at some point on that dental. And that's really on those, mid and big size ticket items.
Well, I know I have to have something, the dentist already told me I have to have a major extraction.
Yep.
And it's, I guess, impacted, so like I could sign up and then have this thing done in July.
Yeah, and anytime your dentist tells you you don't need supplemental, then you should respond, well, then I guess I will owe you $0. Is that right? And as long as they say yes, then you do not need supplemental, right? That's the answer. The only reason those supplemental products exist is because you owe extra after the core Lacera plan. That's the only thing they're there for. So if the dentist is telling you you're going to owe $0 at the end, then don't buy the supplemental. But if he tells you or she tells you, nope, you're going to have extra, that's what they're built for, right? So that's what they're. But great question, because not everybody does need it. So.
Before you reach your, quote, deductible or whatever, in the past, I had the supplemental through RELAC because Cigna only paid 80%. I was always out of pocket for that other 20%.
Right.
So I would call and put in a claim for that 20%.
Right.
But I still had that deductible, and they covered that as well. So is this the thing that we'll still have to do with MedLife, is call for a claim form to fill out and send in to them when you get your eyes examined or when you go to the dentist?
It depends. So a lot of the dentists now will they'll file your Lacera program, and then they'll file this also, right? So then it just plugs in that gap for you automatically.
That's dentist usually does, but the eye clinics don't. They don't take the insurance forms. They say, well, they take Cigna. But when you have to fill out a claim form for that other 20%, they say you have to pay this out of pocket and get your money back.
I would give them the MetLife information at the same time and say you want it to operate as secondary, meaning use Lacera, and then see. And a lot of the vision providers will now do the same thing the dentist is doing, where they'll plug it in. Because dentists, most likely, they'll ask you if you have a secondary coverage, and you give them that information. So they file with Lacera, they get their money. Then they file with Met, they get their money, and ideally that plugs the full gap for you. Vision are starting to do that now too. So if I can't promise because I'm not the vision provider, but a lot of them will now list the secondary coverage, and they'll file it with both, and that way that fills the gap for you. So I would encourage you to always tell them, I have a secondary coverage, and then if you say that, most of them understand what that means, especially for retiree plans like the Lacera plan, because there's a lot of folks that have a secondary coverage. So.
How does the plan protect itself? Like if someone is going to have major dental insurance, and so they get a policy, they do the procedure, and then they drop the policy.
Yeah, it doesn't really, quite frankly. I mean, it does it year to year, but in reality, That's the risk the dental company's taking, right? Is that they're charging premiums. They understand that you can technically come and go from the policy, but dental work isn't always a one-time event. So a lot of times they also see people needing to use it, but that is a risk. I mean, they're insurance companies, I guess, are in the risk business, and so they understand that's a risk that they take, is that people could come and go on that. So most, you'd think many would, most don't, because they had one procedure this year, and then next year they're going to potentially have to get that maintained or have the other side done. So they typically see people for multiple years at a time staying on. So, yeah. Great question, though. Okay. Oh, great question in the back.
One more question. How do you define what the supplemental pays versus what Cigna is going to pay?
Yeah, so ours are all set in stone. They pay a flat amount based out, and it doesn't impact. It's not based on what Cigna is doing. So the nice thing about these programs is they don't care whether you do have Cigna, you don't have Cigna, you had it for a month, you don't. They don't care what kind of medical insurance you have. We get that question a lot. It's like, do they care which medical plan we're on for that hospital program? They don't care. They just care that you went to the hospital, right? And if you show that, it'll pay. So it pays these flat amounts out. It doesn't coordinate it. Now, it's MetLife and the dentist. For example, if the dentist is going to get overpaid, MetLife works that out with the dentist, but it's not something you have to keep up with. You're going to get that flat payment based on the procedure that you had done.
So if somebody has Kaiser insurance, which is full boat,
Right.
no out of pocket for
Right.
anything, and they also have the hospital indemnity plan or the accident plan or whatever, that is cash directly to them.
Correct.
Without regard to the fact that they don't have any financial obligation.
Right. So Kaiser owns the hospital too, so they're unique. But so they would just you'd have to show them, I went to the Kaiser hospital on these dates, and there's a claim form, you fill it out, and then they send you $1,000. They don't care that you didn't pay anything to Kaiser for that. They pay out the full amount because they know when you go to the hospital, there's a lot more life expense than just the hospital, right? You've got other parts of your life getting expensive, and so that money can be used for rent that month or your mortgage or whatever it is that you want. But you just have to prove that you were in the hospital.
Well, I'm old school, okay, so
Sure.
we're going back a long way. But in the past, even with Kaiser, if you were in a car accident per se, and you went to Kaiser's hospital, the first thing they ask you is, do you have other insurance? And you have to sign that other insurance over to them. Will MetLife send that check to them when you sign it over to them? Because Kaiser wants to get that accident money from someplace else if you have other insurance.
Right. So if they do that, you should not sign that check over to them because they're not supposed to be doing that anymore. And the reason is, yeah. Okay, good. But if that ever does happen to you, that's a great point. Don't do it, right? That's your money. You can give it to them, but don't sign over MetLife money to those providers. It's better if they give it to you and you pay them because, as I mentioned, the Kaiser plan on Lacera is really rich benefit. So it's unlikely after that thing has paid out, there should be almost nothing, if anything, for you to pay. And then if there is, it's much better for MetLife to just send you that money. So I would, on medical claims, if you see that, I would just check no and have MetLife send you. They're breaking their contract. They're breaking their contract with Lacera when they ask you that question, because they're only permitted to charge what your Kaiser plan says. So if they're trying to get extra money out of you, they violated their contract with Lacera, and that's a big deal. So
Can I just, see, here I go again, guys, there we go. Okay. If you were in a car accident and you were taken to the hospital, and as part of that process, they may ask you, were you in an accident? Is somebody else responsible, et cetera? That's called an indemnity form. I get those, right? I fall a lot. because I'm clumsy. Not, I'm healthy, I just don't pay attention. So I fell at Dodger Stadium last spring and cut my face with my sunglasses. It was all my fault. Nobody, I was looking around and stumbled over a curb, okay? Not proud of it, but it was the truth. My insurance company paid for my medical expenses, and I had a copay because I'm with Blue Cross. But they sent me a form. How was I hurt? Was somebody else responsible for my injury? Give them the name, etc. They want to be able to sue the person that pushed me into the curb if somebody did that, right? But it didn't impact my ability to use my insurance for my medical care. They were just looking to see if there was a third party. So it's not really about my extra insurance. It's about, is there some third party that should be paying everybody back for the damage that was done and the cost of dealing with it. And I think maybe the kind of thing you're talking about, at least nowadays, would be limited to questions about, is somebody else responsible for this?
Right.
Somebody else should be on the hook to even pay back Kaiser, right? I mean, should they, if I had been hurt by someone else, then Blue Cross would be entitled to be reimbursed by those people for whatever my injury cost them, in addition to whatever they might owe me. So I don't think it's supplemental benefits at all.
Yeah.
It's a third party a bad guy that created the problem, the injury, or the whatever.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yes, supplemental benefits are not the insurance they're asking about when they ask about that question. So, yeah.
I think a lot of times as senior citizens, because we don't know the law, we don't know our rights, we don't ask questions. But when someone is asking you to pay something, you have the right to ask the question, why? What for? And we've been at Kaiser like forever. And we were on a trip, and I got very, very ill. We just pulled off the highway, went into the first hospital that we saw. And they treated me very minimally, but they sent Kaiser a bill for $25,000. And then they sent it to me, and then they sent one to Kaiser. And I called Kaiser, and what treatment did you get? Blah, 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 blah. And they wanted me to pay for it. And I'm going, why?
Yes.
You know, I've been in Kaiser for 45 years. You have got more than this of my money for 45 years.
Right.
So, you know, why should I pay for this?
Right.
And it did go into arbitration or whatever, but I didn't pay for that.
Right.
Because we have full coverage.
You could have used the legal plan right there. So, yeah. That's right.
Arizona sent Kaiser the bill.
Right.
Back in the day, I wasn't retired at that time.
Oh,
yeah.
But you
I
have
was
to
very
ask-
young.
Yeah.
Well,
Ask questions.
the medical system's still unfair, right? It's too confusing. You know, you go in there, they ask you a bunch of questions, you sign a million forms, you're not always sure what you're signing up for. But you need the coverage and the care, so it's not, it's you know, to your point, asking the right questions is good because they're entitled to those answers.
That's right.
Question?
She says you can't have it. But I got it, girl.
We have a question here.
Could you just do a quick review again on how to activate this? I go see my dentist.
Yep.
And then, what do I do?
Yeah, so first thing you'd do is you'd sign up, right? You'd call the call center, sign up, or the benefit center. They'd walk you through it. You'd sign up. You'd get your Lacera form. You'd get that filled. Okay, sorry. So you'd call the benefit center. Let's say today, which is. Okay, you need to get the coverage first. Right. Okay, got it. So once you have the coverage, when you go to the dentist, they're going to ask you, who's your insurer, right? We have. Right, and then they're going to say, typically they should say, or you should offer, I have a secondary coverage as well.
I tell them, I have a secondary coverage.
Right, I have a supplemental coverage, right? At that time, they'll ask you for that information. When they file the claim, they're going to file that claim, and they'll file it with Cigna and MetLife, right? And then, yeah, you will need to give them your MetLife information, right? And your Cigna information, both.
I claim forms myself.
Typically, no, right? I mean, as that, I would say 90% of dentists will do that because that's them getting paid. I can't promise if you're with one of the 10% that says, we filed the Cigna and now if you need help with that, you can call the benefits center and they can help you get that process done. But so many dentists are moving away from insurance altogether that they're now all out of network. The goal of a dentist is to get all your number of patients that are going to come to you no matter what, and then drop every insurance, right? That's what they want to do, because then they know you're still going to come, and then they file out-of-network claims, they call them, right? But they still file them. Doctors don't work that way, right? They want to be in network, and if you're out of network, then that's on you, right? So dentists are in this boat of many dentists are out of network with everybody, but they still work with all the insurance companies. So they will normally work with you to file both sets. We have had people say, hey, this was too much. It's because they didn't file their Cigna, and they filed just their MetLife, and vice versa. The dentist only ran the Cigna, didn't run the Met. So just make sure that you're telling them about both, because you have both coverages. They get paid more, right? Yeah, and I guess the only way to make it stop is you'd have to stop going to them. And you won't, right? Like, because in general, if you like your dentist, which I like my dentist, if they drop, and I have insurance coverage, it still does have a benefit for out-of-network dentists, right? It pays a little bit, more to that dentist. And then they realize, well, we have the patient base. They'll come to me. They like me. So I can go out-of-network now. They start in-network because they need those insurance companies to send them patients.
We have time for one more question.
Thank you.
Well, maybe we'll skip that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. No, this has been fantastic. Really enjoyed meeting everyone. And I know it's opening day, so if you're a Dodgers or Angels fan, there you go. So, yeah, appreciate it.